Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
And he sits me down and goes, "You're on the air." And I was like, oh, this is so scary. So I did that.
Did you freeze? Or, you figured out what to say?
I was horrible. And he was like, "Oh, I always know when people come from your place because they're always happy. You always think there's something better out there. And then once you go out and see everything, you see, no, nothing's better than St. Louis."
I'm Sarah Fensky. Joy Grdnic was just a 17-year-old kid from Millstadt, Illinois, when she first made a big impression on St. Louis. At 17, she started as a DJ at classic rock station Keishi. She hadn't even graduated high school yet. Now, more recently, St. Louis got to know Joy Grdnic Christensen as the owner of the beloved Midtown restaurant, The Fountain on Locust. She opened the Art Deco Eatery in 2008. But she recently announced she's moving on. And she joins us today to discuss why and so much more.
I'm here, yes.
So, Joy, welcome.
Well, thank you, Sarah Fensky. I still haven't graduated high school, but
but here you are.
Yes, exactly. And you know what I have to say? I've told you I'm a big fan, and I'm very delighted to be here, as a matter of fact. So you always make this mental picture of what somebody looks like that you haven't ever met before, that you just heard. And I'm thinking, gee, you kind of look a little bit like I expected. Usually they never look like what you think.
Well, I'm glad my face matches my voice.
But you're skinny.
Okay, Joy, I got to take control of this interview. Yeah. Enough about me. Let's talk about your ice cream.
I knew you were going to say that, darn it. Okay, because I just wanted to ask one little question. I know it's about me. But why are you in St. Louis? Like, what brought you to St. Louis? Because you were everywhere.
You know what? You should never interview a radio person. They just take over. This is so unfair. So I'm going to tell you a very fast story.
Yes.
Came here for work, fell in love with a St. Louisan.
It's always the story.
You can leave, but they pull you back.
Yep, it's always the case.
So now, Joy, can we talk about you?
Of course.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Thank you for giving me back control.
Well, you are a professional. Look at you. Look at you take back that control. Yes.
So the Fountain on Locust, people love this restaurant. And you started this restaurant. You painted all the things on the walls of this restaurant. Why did you decide to leave this restaurant?
Well, Sarah, you're supposed to have an exit strategy when you do things, and I didn't think that. I was just thinking, oh my God, I hope that, I don't lose all my money and fail. So I just kept trying to go forward and make it a success. And then after a while, I remember my general manager, who I had for 10 years, wanted to retire. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Joy, why don't you sell the restaurant?" And I thought, oh my God. It's like, why don't you adopt one of your children off,
this is your baby.
Yeah, it just never even occurred to me. But then after I get a little seed in your head, and you know how that is, and you just kind of dismiss it, and then it just kind of sits there, and then it grows, and all of a sudden there you are. So I was like, well, gee, I'm old. I have to
We're not old.
I'm going to run out of time to do all the things I want to do. So I have to pass this on to somebody, and hopefully somebody who can not ruin it.
So you wanted to find somebody who got it, who understood the spirit of the place and the menu of the place. So how hard was it to find Danny and Marcus Eichenhorst, who are taking this over?
Well, that's kind of funny that you asked that, Sarah Fensky, you radio professional, because I initially had, I called one place down the street. It was the Kranzberg Foundation, and immediately they wanted to buy it. So we went back and forth through this whole thing that lasted months, because they weren't really allowed to. They were a foundation, and they weren't. It was a mess. So it kind of just went nowhere. And then COVID hit, and then I started getting all of these kind of things, messages from the university kind of things, where I'd see Danny Eichenhorst on this and that, and my husband kind of knew her. He was kind of talking to her, and then I was even I'm restoring this house in Soulard, so I have this big project that I'm doing, and I wanted to find out about floor cloths, and I'm looking up online, and I'm talking to some lady I don't know in Ohio, and it gets around to, well, I have this restaurant in St. Louis, and she's like, oh, I know somebody who has in the restaurant business in St. Louis is Danny Eichenhorst. And I was like, oh, well, you know how it is. It's like bam, bam, bam. Okay, I should call Danny Eichenhorst.
So you just kind of cold
so
called.
I called her, yes,
Wow.
yes, thinking that maybe she would be able to introduce me to some people.
And instead, she was
She
like,
decided to
"Hey,
take it. Yes,
that's
right away.
awesome."
And I didn't even know that. I thought she was going to, oh, yeah, okay, that sounds great and everything. And then she was going to tell her friends.
But so then Danny and Marcus stepped up, and they're both such lovely people.
They're
and-
fantastic, yes.
But then
I'm so
did
lucky.
you have the second thought of, wait a minute, I'm not sure I want to hand my baby off?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I wanted to be sure that I could still eat there.
So that was part of the deal, right?
Yes. Well, I have to write that in about that 50% ice cream. But anyway, I just thought, well, first of all, she's a great marketer, and she's out there, and she loves St. Louis, and that was the thing that really got me, because I love St. Louis. I mean, I made the Fountain of Locust because I love St. Louis. I'm going to cry. But St. Louis actually made the Fountain of Locust. It's like, okay, I made it, but still, they made it. The people of St. Louis made it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to cry.
Oh, because this is your
Yeah,
baby.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
and
Because it's, oh God, I'm so embarrassed.
we have tissues right
Oh,
here.
is that what that's for? But I mean, because so many, we were in an area, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know if you were here. Were you here?
So a little bit after that is when I first popped into town. And yeah, Locust was just a wasteland.
Yeah, exactly. It was completely, everybody that was there for like, I don't know what, their whole lives, and they operated out of the backs of their buildings, and the Locust itself was a one-way street. There was like no activity on it.
And people in St. Louis do not like to drive one-way streets. They'll just avoid them.
Well, you can't operate a retail place anywhere in the United States except New York and on a one-way street. So we had to change that. So we were real involved, like the neighbors at the time were real involved about getting the street cleaned up. There was a whole lot of homeless and, just illegal activity, the kind of thing, like I was constantly going downtown with somebody holding their hand that got, their license plate stolen or their, it was a mess. It was a mess. So we cleaned that all up, and it was a big deal. Took a long time, and switched the street and everything. And then we had to get people to find us because they didn't know where it was.
You were just far enough off, like the beaten track, that people
Yes.
are like, where do you even want me to go?
Exactly, and it's so funny because I always say, gee, if we were a lousy restaurant one street over, we do twice the business.
But you were a good restaurant. And for
Yes.
people who haven't been to the Fountain on Locust, you're known for your ice cream martinis. Frankly,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the pickle soup.
Oh, thank you.
It's so good. There's the sandwiches, but this is also, it's a very elegant place.
Thank you, Sarah Fensky. You have it right again. This is why you are the professional reporter that you are, yes. Because a lot of people, my whole concept there was I wanted to make it, I've got to get rid of this, I'm sorry. I wanted to make it a place that was not only beautiful to be in, but delicious, of course, and fresh, but inexpensive. And usually you can't do all three of those. You can only do two of those. But because we own the building, then I was able to set the prices. And it was so funny because, you go to a lot of places and you leave and you had a good time or you had some really good food. And then it's like, ouch, my wallet hurts, and it's not completely fun.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is going to make me cry again, oh my God, the thing that was the nicest thing, I think, in all the 13 and a half years that I was there, was walking down the street, and we have a little parking there, some lot, it's not mine. I don't even know whose it is. And they had a parking attendant. And I said, I'm from the Fountain of Locust. And he was like, I always know when people come from your place because they're always happy.
Oh, how
Yeah.
wonderful.
I know. I'm going to cry.
So Joy, though, this leads me to wonder. I mean, I understand what your goals were for the restaurant, and I think it's fair to say you achieved those goals. But what made somebody who was known for being a radio host and being a radio DJ for so many years, what made you want to go into the restaurant business in the first place?
I just don't know. People ask me that question all the time, and I ask myself that question because I don't know. It really is incongruous with what I was doing. And I was trying to think, well, what is my problem? Why am I not in touch with myself? And I think, well, gee, I grew up on the farm, and when you grow up on the farm, for some reason, I didn't think I could buy stuff. Like I was like, I didn't have money, and I don't know how to get jobs and things like that. So I just made things. Like if I wanted something, I had to make it. So I literally made everything. I made my shoes. Now that was where you really are going. You're spending more money to make a pair of shoes than you can buy a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I went through just life what I was in the radio business, and I thought I'm an artist. Like for literally 25 years, I struggled with whether I should be an artist or a radio personality. And then one day, it was like, hey, Joy, you can be both.
And so then you picked up art on the side, which I know you're attempting to answer my question, Joy, but I have to say, once you're doing art and you're doing radio, most people would say, yeah, you don't actually have time to open a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Did.
Yeah.
It sounds like
that's because I'm blonde.
You pursue your passions.
Well, I just jump in, and I don't really do a whole lot of research like you should, like you, Sarah Fensky, doing your show prep and doing everything properly. No, Joy, she just gets out there. And it's kind of like this house that I bought in Soulard, which was a mess. I mean, it was, just it deteriorated to rottenness, and nobody would, take it on. And I'm like, oh, I'll do it. I'll fix it. Yeah.
You just kind of jump in with both feet.
Yeah. And so that's exactly why I didn't have an exit strategy. So now it's like, okay, hey, what time is it? Hey, there's not much left here. I better get going if I want to do other things. And so there were I have 3 other projects. There's 2 other buildings on Locust. One is a project that my husband and I are going to do together that is a experiential, owner-generated special media platform thing. Okay, that means nothing, right? You don't even know what that means.
Yeah, you're going to have to break that down for me.
No, that's what I'm going to tell the city. Yeah.
And then is this for podcasters? Or?
Well, we do have podcast studios, actually.
Oh, okay.
But I kind of want to just have kind of like pop-up theme bar attractions and things. But I don't even want to do anything like that for a year.
Yeah.
The other building, the other way from the fountain, is the Cherry Garage, and that's my son, who has a fantastic car he fixes. You can go online and see the Cherry Garage, and you have to subscribe and like, of course.
Of course. The Cherry Garage. You heard it here first.
Yes. And so that's fantastic. And I think he's going to open a cafe, so that'll be nice. And I try to tell him not to, but...
But so you're determined to take a year off before you jump into these other projects.
This is what I hope. I hope that I could take a year off and travel and read. But, and I do I'm so retired. I went to McDonald's the other day. Have you been to McDonald's lately?
I have, yeah.
Really?
Embarrassingly.
Oh my gosh.
I have to be honest, because all our producers are like, yeah, she eats a lot of fast food.
I don't think I had been in McDonald's in 30 years.
Good for you.
So I went in, and it was like it was like $8, over $8, $8.99 or something.
It's kind of expensive.
Really? And I was like, what? We have to raise our prices at the fountain.
You probably should, honestly.
But this is the first time I got the feeling that I'm old, because the woman behind the counter is, I'm counting out. I think this is a good place to get rid of my change. Don't you have something like just a single burger? I don't want all these triple burgers and all these things. And she says, yeah, you can get a single burger patty. It's $1.19. Because she sees me looking through my little change purse, and I think she must think I'm a senior on a limited budget, and so I count out all my change and everything, and I say, I'm thinking, I better not order something that's going to be sitting around because nobody orders it, kind of thing, which is my biggest mistake in life, is always ordering the thing that nobody orders. And so she says, we'll get you a fresh one. So I get this thing several minutes later, and the meat is so thin, it's like it was like a piece of cardboard. And then I began to wonder if it was a piece of cardboard. And I was telling my son about this, and he said, well, now that you're retired, you should be a restaurant critic. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm going to put everybody out of business. I mean, my tagline would have to be, I'll never go there again.
I can get behind this. I feel like this is the retirement plan for Joy Grdnic Christensen. You need to become a restaurant critic and put the bad places out of business. No. Some of them may be my favorites, but they deserve it. So, Joy, I mean, you're contemplating your retirement. I love this idea of the restaurant criticism. But I want to go back just a little bit, because I find your life so interesting. And I mentioned you got on Keishi as a 17-year-old.
Yes.
How does one even go about doing that?
Well, you know what? And I meant to bring this to you. We have my husband made a video called "Never Say Goodbye."
And this is a documentary
yes,
about
a documentary. It was on Channel 9 like 4 times.
Yeah.
And it tells the story of that was when I first found out, when he interviewed the other people, that they were also scared. I thought I was the only one that was terrified because I was a female and I was the only female, and I had no role model or people tell me about Allison Steele. I thought that was a construction company. I mean, I didn't hear any other female, so I just kind of made my way. I didn't know,
How did you end up making your way to a microphone and they actually kept it turned on?
Oh, that's because I went to the radio station and I told them that I could do concert posters, which I did.
Because you were an artist.
Exactly. See? So I had that dual thing going. So I did some concert posters, and then they said you could work here on the weekend selling tickets, which I did. And then I told the owner that I wanted to be on the air. And he said, "Do you want to be on the air?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to be on the air." He said, "You want to be on the air?" I said, "I want to be on the air." He goes, "Come on." And we walked down the hallway, and he goes in the on-air studio, and he says to the person on the air, "Get up, get going." And he sits me down and goes, "You're on the air." And I was like, oh, this is so scary. So I did that.
Did you freeze, or you figured out what to say?
I was horrible. I talked.
But you talked.
Yeah, I talked, and I was terrible. I was like, "Oh, we're gonna cut the carpet with this one," and like.
So just being kind of like cheesy DJ.
Yes, exactly.
But you got the hang of it. I mean, you ended up being a huge success in radio.
I had going for me that the morning hadn't become the time that anybody listened, especially that audience. We had a progressive rock audience that usually didn't wake up in the morning. So just as they were getting a little older and getting jobs, I think I had that as a,
Then you grabbed that morning slot.
Exactly. Yeah. I got
suddenly
hold of
became
them.
prime territory.
Totally. And the ratings just kept going up and up is because people were getting up and up.
Well, so your radio career, it took you to Los Angeles. You were there for a number of years.
Correct.
New York,
Yes.
San Diego.
Yes.
What made you come back to St. Louis? I know you love St. Louis, but it can't be that simple.
Well, we had children, and St. Louis. There's no place better than St. Louis to have your children because everything's free.
The zoo is free.
Yes.
If nothing else.
No, because it's I think people do come back after you always think there's something better out there, and then once you go out and see everything, you see no, nothing's better than St. Louis. So
you very earnestly believe this.
Well, I do. I'm a big champion for St. Louis, and I love the St. Louis people. St. Louis has so many troubles, of course, and so does every city, though. A lot of cities do. So it's a trade-off.
And am I right that you live in the city? You're not out in Chesterfield talking about how much you like St. Louis.
Oh, no. I live in the city. And then when I go out, the gritty city. So I've got my car that's a 20-year-old Prius. It's a beater. It's horrible. It's so embarrassing. But I'm never embarrassed in the city. It's only when I go to the county that I'm embarrassed.
I know exactly what you're talking about, sadly. But so do you feel like, you've seen the long sweep of history starting as a 17-year-old. Do you feel like St. Louis is starting to get it together?
Yes, it is and it isn't. But it is in art in a lot of ways. Politically, I'm not sure. But, it's going to survive. It's going to make it through all of this stuff. It's a good thing. And all of the troubles are troubles that are going to be necessary to get it to be the good thing. And that's where we're getting through that.
You take the long view. So look, there's one other thing I had to make sure to ask you about today. And this is in addition to becoming a DJ at 17, you got married at 19, which I would tell you, if you were my daughter, don't ever do that.
Exactly.
But this worked out amazingly. You guys will be married 47 years this month.
Isn't that embarrassing? I want to be 47. I don't want to have to say that.
But what a remarkable achievement to be married for 47 years.
Thank you, Sarah Fensky. I see the honesty and earnestness in your eyes there, and
I'm more impressed by this than anything, honestly.
Hold on, where's the sympathy? No, where's my lifetime achievement award? No.
What is the secret to this marriage?
Well, for one thing, my brain hadn't developed. Your brain doesn't develop till you're like 25.
That's right.
So I didn't know what I was doing. And I look at my own daughter and I'm thinking, gosh, she was way in better shape than I was. I'm sorry. I should have shut my phone off. I don't know how to do it. And my girlfriend at the time, she was like, well, if you get married, I'm going to get married. Because we knew we were never going to get married. I mean, that was like, ugh. And then the only other person that got married before me in high school got knocked up. And that wasn't me. So I don't know what happened to me, but I got married. And I always thought, well, if it doesn't work out, you can always get divorced. But that's not how life is. So there's too many other complications with things. So,
But so you guys have made it work.
We did. And my husband, who might be listening.
I hope he is listening.
It's very dear, yes. And the good thing is you, as time goes on, things get easier and you actually love each other more. But things get easier because you don't fight so much. You went through all those fights and you kind of worked it out. So you kind of know, you finish each other's sentences and all this stuff and you start to smell alike and people start to look alike.
So you just kind of have to get through the tough times. The good times are there.
Yeah, just like St. Louis, exactly.
I love this. You're like just bringing it full circle. This is your talent as a radio person. Well, Joy, I got to ask you. You are, you've been at the Fountain on Locust. You founded this restaurant, and you're going to have a farewell party this Sunday, and the whole city is invited to come.
Well, that's true. I spent some time during COVID making the upstairs into a public space because the initial idea was, we had this business upstairs, space. And when we lost our COVID tables because you had to distance and you had to cut off tables altogether, we thought, okay, I know you're watching the clock. Just go like this. Cut me off. Get the big hook out. Yeah, take her away. So I thought we would, do that. But then nobody came to the restaurant anyway because nobody was going anywhere. It was just really tough, And so I kind of put the brakes on making the thing. And then when we opened our doors again, and everybody was coming out like they just got out of jail, and we had, hour and a half wait when you open the door. It's ridiculous. So I had to hurry up and finish it. So now it's finished. Nobody's really seen it except for a few people.
So you have this event space upstairs.
Yeah, and people can come see it, but it's not big enough to have everybody just up there. So we'll probably be outside too, and you can go up and check it out and come down and say hello. And
so that is from 1 to 3. Yeah. Give her $1. She might spend it at McDonald's, but she'll take that $1. So that's 1 to 3. That's this Sunday, and that's just outside the Fountain on Locust.
Yes.
Well, Joy Grdnic Christensen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sarah Fensky.
This has been so fun.
Delightful.
This episode was produced by Sarah Fensky, with audio engineering by Aaron Dorr and production assistance from Jane Mather-Glass. It was mixed and edited by Jane. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here. If you learned something new from today's episode, consider leaving us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the easiest way to help people discover our show. We appreciate it. Thank you. St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.